This is the Ms.FitVegan podcast, episode 532. If you are dealing with severe self-sabotage, then you may have made an unconscious promise to yourself many, many years ago. Let me explain mine. When I was 13 years old, I officially started living with my mom for the first time. That is when I unconsciously made a promise that I would always find a way to take care of her, to take care of my sister, and to make sure that I was safe. Because I had proof for the first 13 years of my life that no one else was going to keep me safe. No one else was going to take care of me. No one else was going to make sure that I was okay and I was not in harm's way. So when I was 13, I made that promise to become responsible for the family and for myself, and to become the man of the house. And at 14 years old, I dropped out of high school and I started working, and I never looked back. And I did go to school in my 20s, but I always had a full-time job, and I always paid the rent, and I always made sure we had food. I always made sure we paid the bills, and we never were homeless again, and we never we never had to borrow money from anyone because I was always there. I was always the person paying for everything. And I also realized recently that I made a promise, but it wasn't conscious. It was a subconscious promise to myself that I would never, ever, ever trust a man, and I would never let one ruin my life. Because, well, I thought that my father ruined my mom's life because my mom had 2 kids with this man, and when she got pregnant with the 3rd kid, he said, if you have this kid, you'll be sitting here alone with 3 kids. So my mom had an abortion, and I never forgot the story she told me. She told me a lot of things she should not have told me. But this one is not so inappropriate, so I'll tell you guys. Basically, my mom bought herself like a cake, like a little, like 1-person cake to eat after her abortion, just like as a reward, like something to look forward to after her abortion, right? And so she came home from having an abortion, and she found my father with 2 of his friends eating the cake in the kitchen. And she was so upset and disappointed. She just went to the bedroom and started crying. She never told him. She just told me later. And she told me a lot of really inappropriate things to tell a child, things that happened to her, like with different men that she slept with. And it made me really, really never, ever want to put myself in those positions, okay? To have to get an abortion on my own, to have to, be a single mother of a brand newborn and a 2-year-old with a brain tumor. So my father left right after my mom had that abortion, and my sister was diagnosed with a brain tumor. You guys probably know that. I'm sure I've told you many times. So I promised myself very, very early on that I would never allow myself to be at the disposal of a man, or need a man, or be used by a man, or be abused by a man, or trust a man, or have my life ruined by one. But the reality is that my father was my mom's choice. My mom did not have to marry him. My mom did not have to sleep with him. My mom did not have to be in a relationship with that man. So ultimately, my mom was responsible, not my father, ultimately. And all those horrible stories my mom told me. So my mom was a prostitute, and she told me stories of, sleeping with men. And she would tell me these stories when we called, because from being a brand newborn to 13, I had weekly phone calls with my mom when I was in foster care. And she would use those times, I don't know why, because she was mentally unstable. She would use those phone calls to tell me stories of things that had happened during the week to her. And I won't tell you the worst stories, but I won't tell you any of them. But basically they were horrible, horrible stories. And I definitely didn't want that to ever happen to me. Ever, ever, ever. And I figured the only way is to never get involved with a man, to never be around them, never be alone with them. And that has to change if I want to one day be in a relationship. So I know that therapy is a big part of that. But I wanted to make this podcast because you might be holding on to the promise you made to yourself or to your father or your mother or your sister or brother many, many, many years ago. And it's not serving you anymore. In fact, it's making you miserable. Maybe you were raped or sexually abused as a kid, and you promised yourself that you will never, ever be abused again. You'll never be sexually assaulted again. And so you decided that if you had a lot of fat on your body, if you weighed more than you were comfortable with, then no man would find you attractive, and no man would rape you again. Okay? And you might be living out this promise. And so you might be trying really hard to work out, and you might be trying really fucking hard to be on a diet and eat a raw food diet. But you made this promise, and you have to keep it to feel safe. And it's just a false belief. It's a misunderstanding. It's not true. It's not true that if you lose weight, you'll be sexually abused. It's not true. And I would highly recommend therapy, but don't waste your time in therapy. Bring this up immediately. Bring up your childhood traumas. Bring up what you're struggling with now, what you've struggled with in the past, and consider speaking to them about a unconscious promise that you might have made to yourself. And you might not be aware of it now, but the more you talk about it, the more you think about it, the more you journal about it, you'll start to realize, wow, I actually decided a long time ago that I needed to find a way to feel safe. I needed to find a way to feel loved. I needed to find this. I needed to find that. And that's why you might be self-sabotaging over and over and over. Because, well, the truth is that everything you do is serving you. And you don't know it yet. You don't see it yet because it's not conscious yet. When it becomes conscious, when you become aware, that's the first step in the healing process. Becoming aware of why we are doing something, becoming aware of why we want to stop, and becoming aware of what we want and why we really want it. These are the steps that we must take in order to get what we really want in life, because nobody really wants to have an unhealthy body. Nobody really wants to be overweight. But it is serving us. Rest assured, every single one of your habits, every single thing in your reality is serving you, whether you want to become aware of it or not. So not having a lack of money, it's serving you. And your job is to figure out how and why. Did you make a promise to yourself that you would never make anyone in your family feel bad? And so therefore, you make sure to not make a lot of money, to not have a lot of money, because maybe you don't want people to feel bad, or maybe you feel like if you make more money, then you'll be responsible for them and you'll have to take care of them. And And you don't want to do that. So you keep yourself poor. You keep yourself stuck. Awareness is the first step in the healing process. I want to inspire you to please journal today about what promise you could have made in childhood. Maybe you promised your mom, like I did, to always take care of her, to always be there for her. Maybe you promised your sister to always take care of her, always be there for her. And that might mean never getting involved with a man so that your full attention would be on them. I hope this podcast opened your eyes to something possibly that you might have not thought about. I will see you in the next episode. Bye.